Hello, Team Octane. I hope you're having a great day. Today we're going to talk about recovery, talk about specifically, a certain type of yoga that's going to be helpful. And also, we'll hit on a couple other things with recovery that our girl Michelle is going to show how it can lead to great results. So listen in. I hope you enjoy the show and let me know how you are recovering. You can email me, jason@octaneathleticperformance.com. Or go to our Facebook or Twitter, with facebook.com/OctaneAP or Twitter. Our handle is OctaneAP. Look forward to Team Octane. Welcome. Today we have Dr. Michelle Summers Cologne, and she's the author of Body Wisdom. She's also a physician, yoga teacher, anatomy professor, and motivational speaker. She offers workshops online and offline. So she hopes to inspire us in this interview. So thank you, Michelle, for coming on to the show.
Thank you, Jason. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about all the different topics that we mentioned in Michelle's intro. And before we get into that, Michelle, is there a quote you have for us today?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is, "The journey is the destination," because especially with fitness and health and wellness, it's about the journey, and people get so caught up in their end goal or how many pounds they want to lose or how many miles they want to run, but they don't really enjoy the process. So if they can just take a few minutes to step back and really just enjoy the whole process they're going through, it's going to be so much easier and better for them in the end.
Love it. And is there anything else you want to add to your introduction?
I guess the other thing I would add is that I'm a holistic podiatrist. I've been practicing for 19 years in the same community, in the same office. And I work with a lot of runners, a lot of athletes, and a lot of diabetics. Those are probably my main patients that I see there. So I see a lot of injuries, and I see a lot of people that are trying to get healthier through fitness that have conditions like diabetes and obesity. And so there's a whole range of patients that come into my office. And now that I've added this health and wellness component, this holistic component to my practice, it's just helping people get healthier from all different avenues.
I love it. And I mean, we have definitely a lot of endurance athletes that listen into the show. So I'm sure we'll hit on some points in podiatry and keeping your feet healthy, because that, for runners especially, is super important. I mean, that's really everything. That's the only piece of equipment that people really need in running. It's your shoes. So in your own words, you're an expert in really helping people live healthier and happier, being motivated. Now, what does that mean? And what was your inspiration to really focus in on this?
Living healthier and happier, what it means to me is just really feeling good in your own body, in your mind, in your spirit. So if you're someone who's working out and your body is feeling good, but you're just so stressed and worried all the time, then you're not really living a healthy life. So you got to really address all the different components and make sure you're slowing down and taking the time to have a few minutes of quiet a day, and to also change up your workout routine so you don't do the same hardcore workout every day, so you can have some softer things in there to balance everything out, like maybe some yoga or some walking or some things that aren't as strenuous, to kind of give yourself that balance. And then what inspired me was, I've always been pretty healthy and fit. When I was younger, I was a runner and I played basketball and I did track and field. Those things were fun to me. I enjoyed doing those things. And then as I got older and got into medical school and residency and kind of got away from doing some of those things, I started having my own health issues come up at a young age, in my late 20s and early 30s. And I was having back pain and I was having GI issues and things. And so I really started looking into holistic medicine at this time. And that's when I discovered yoga and Ayurveda, which is Indian medicine, which uses foods and herbs to help you heal yourself. And that's when I decided that I needed to start incorporating that into my own practice with my patients so I could teach them how to start healing themselves rather than relying on medications and surgeries for things like that.
Awesome. And so how do you heal yourself? How did you really recover or keep away future injuries?
I healed myself once I learned about Ayurveda and the different types of foods that people are recommended to eat based on their body type. Because in Ayurveda, there's 3 main body types, and kind of depending on which category you fall into, there's different foods and herbs that are recommended for you. And so when I really figured it out for my own self and started applying those principles to my life, my GI system got healed, and I was able to eat without feeling sick afterwards, and I was able to sleep better because I didn't have a stomach ache. So all of that was kind of going really well, but I was still having my back pain. And so I started working out again. I started with doing yoga and weights and kind of alternating between the two of them to strengthen my core muscles so that I could start not having that pain and not going to doctors telling me that I was going to need back surgery and things like that.
So what are those body types? What are those 3 body types?
So the 3 body types are called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And in Ayurveda, there's a lot of Sanskrit, so a lot of the words might sound foreign to your audience. But basically, the Vata type would be someone who is a little bit more frail. Maybe they're very thin. They worry a lot. They don't have a lot of endurance. So some of the endurance sports are going to not feel that great for their body. And then the Pitta type, which is the one in the middle, is a little bit more heated. So they get angry quicker. They get hot quicker. They kind of like spicy foods, but at the same time, it can aggravate their stomach. So they have to kind of be careful with that. And they also like the really hardcore sports. They're more type A personality. So they like running marathons. They like doing triathlons. They like doing things like that. And then the Kapha type is a little bit more, and I should mention that middle type is also more muscular, has a more muscular frame. And then the Kapha type, the last one, they're more kind of a bigger, broader frame. They tend to put on weight easier. They're not as excited about exercising and working out, and they can be labeled as lazy sometimes, but it's more just that they're more comfortable not doing things. So with that type, they need a little bit of motivation to get them started on a workout plan or an exercise routine. And once they get started, they're okay, but it's really hard for them to get motivated to do it in the first place.
Got it. And so what type of things did you do with weight training? Because it sounds like your primary focus was yoga. Is that right? To start healing your body, but you also added some weight training in there.
Yeah, I added the weight training because I felt like if my core was stronger, that was going to improve my yoga, and also it was going to help my back pain. And so I started with just doing some home workouts. I went to the gym and met with a trainer and found out which type of weights would be best for the issues that I was having with my back, which I have some scoliosis. So that's always going to be there. But at the same time, I was having sciatica and some nerve pain. And so we really figured out what would be the right routines for me. And then I was able to continue doing those at home with my free weights. And then with yoga, there's so many types of yoga people sometimes don't realize. I mean, a lot of people have heard of the hot yoga, the Bikram yoga, but there's also very slow types of yoga like yin and restorative. Even a lot of athletes that are actually injured now or recovering from an injury can do those types of yogas to start healing some of those muscles. So that's one of the things I like to teach people about. And so I did a lot of that in the beginning to help with my nerve pain. And then once that kind of resolved, then I was able to do some more of the hardcore yoga that you kind of see people doing like on TV or online. You see a lot of the really hardcore yoga. So that's something that I had to build up into.
And so can you tell us a little more about your book? Kind of what was your goal in the book?
My goal in the book was really to just start educating people so that they can learn how to do some of these things on their own, because I do offer an online training program based on the same principles that I have in the book. And for a lot of people, doing it in person, doing it live with a coach or with a guide works better for them. But for some people, they like to have the information first and read about it on their own. And it just really depends on how people like to learn. And so in the book, I teach the same principles that I would teach in my live groups, which is daily habits, how to start making lifestyle changes, using baby steps and taking it kind of slow, because I know you work with a lot of athletes and you train people, so you know that some people can't do a lot of changes all at once. They can't sustain it. They'll give up. If you give them too much too fast, they'll just give up.
It's confusing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's confusing. And then it's almost like they set themselves up for failure because they need to go slower. And so we really stress for the people, because I work with a lot of people, not sure if you do, but I work with a lot of people that haven't worked out in years. Yeah, so they come to me and they're like, I haven't worked out in 10 years and now I have to lose like 50 pounds. And so what do I need to do? And so if they have that goal of losing 50 pounds in like 2 months period or something like crazy like that in their head, they're never going to do it. And so we have to really get realistic and truthful with them and explain to them, look, this is going to be a process. This is not going to happen overnight. And these are the baby steps we're going to take to get you there. If you're serious about it, you realize all the changes that you need to make in your life because you need your life to change drastically before a major health crisis happens to you. This is what we need to do. And so I work with them that way. And that's what I pretty much show them in the book as well.
Could you take us through a couple of the principles in the book?
Yeah, for sure. A couple of the basic ones, and sometimes it sounds so basic, some listeners might think, we all know that. And it's true. We kind of do in the back of our minds. We all know that we need sleep, we need good nutrition, and we need to exercise. Those are like the first three main principles. Absolutely. But people aren't doing it. And that's the problem. And I mean, a lot of your listeners probably are doing it because they're athletes, but a lot of other people aren't doing it. And that's the majority of the people in our country.
Well, I think sleep is one that I think a lot of people don't do. I think that people realize that it's important, but it's not that sexy topic. It's not the 5-3-1 program, or it's not a 100-mile race.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's kind of hard to get people to appreciate that sometimes.
Yeah. And so that's one of the first things that we focus on. And it's really about, with Ayurveda, it's about getting people back into the natural rhythm of life, like nature's rhythm, their circadian rhythm. So going to bed at the right time in the evening, waking up at the right time of day, striving to get those 8 hours of sleep, not being proud of the fact that you can get by with 5 hours of sleep every night. Because we can do that. A lot of us can do that. But in the long run, it's taking a toll on our body. And when we're 50, 60 years old, we're going to feel it. And so we don't want that to happen. So we need to start making the changes now and strive to get 8 hours or as close to 8 hours as we can. And so a lot of people that are going to bed at midnight or 1 a.m. because they're trying to get a bunch of things done after their kids go to bed, or they're trying to get all these last minute things done for work, they're really hurting themselves. And so I start working with them on bringing their bedtime back down. And again, with that, you have to do it in small steps, because if you're going to bed at 1 a.m. every night and then I tell you, you need to try to go to bed at 10, and they just try to do it in one night, like they go to bed at 10, they're just going to lay awake in bed for 2 or 3 hours, right? Because their body's not used to it. Yeah. So we have to break it down in small increments. So I'll tell them, okay, for this whole week, let's have you go to bed at 12:45, and then your body will get used to it. And then next week, 12:30. And then in a month's time, you could be going to bed at midnight, whereas before you were going to bed at 1 a.m. And you'll actually see that if you do that and start getting the right amount of sleep, you're going to be more productive the next day. So staying up late to get these last minute things done is not really helping your productivity as much as you think it is. And so that's one of the first things we work with.
What's your response when you work with somebody who says that, well, I'm a night person, I get more done at night?
Yeah, and that's really common. And I understand that you've been doing that, and then that's your way that you've been doing it for a long time. But what you're doing is you're actually hurting your body, and you might not feel it now, but you're going to feel it later. And because these are the things that are supposed to happen in your body when you're sleeping at night, and all these these cellular repair and rejuvenation and all these things that are supposed to happen during the night are not happening when you're going to bed so late. And so you're actually waking up the next day with less energy because you didn't have as much sleep to get all that stuff done. So during the day, our energy is being used for locomotion and for exercise and for digestion. And during the night, our energy is supposed to be used for repair and rejuvenation. And so people that aren't getting enough sleep are hurting themselves in the end. So it does take some education with the night owl types, but if they're willing to give it a shot and give it a try, they usually do see the changes.
So it can cause someone to start slow in the morning because their body's not fully recovered. Is that right? You said it was simple, but I mean, that's mind blowing. I mean, to me, because there's a lot of people who say it's hard to get up in the morning. So, I mean, if you can take it from the perspective that we just learned right now, I mean, that can be huge. For the listener who's ever listening right now, would you want to wake up with more energy, a little more vibrant? Well, that all begins with getting as close as you can to those 8 hours of sleep. And I know I'm one of them. I'm pretty good. I've gotten pretty good more recently in getting 7 hours. So that's where I'm at right now. And that's going to bed about 10 o'clock. But I would love to get 8 hours.
Yeah, and it also goes along with the natural clock of the universe. So if we look at getting up, like if you're going to bed at 10 and you're getting 7 hours of sleep, that means you're getting up around 5 probably, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Ayurveda, the optimal time to wake up is before 6. So in that 5 to 6 hour in the morning, 5 to 6 a.m. is the best time to wake up. That's when the energy is going to be the highest because everything runs on this clock of energy with Ayurveda. So before 6 a.m., you're going to have the most energy if you wake up during that time. So in order to do that, you have to go to bed around 10 o'clock to get that 8 hours of sleep so that you're waking up at the right time of day. And so people who say, well, they're night owls, they stay up late, but then, and they have a hard time getting up in the morning and they say, well, that's because I went to bed so late or that's because I'm not a morning person. It's actually, that's not the reason. It's because they're not getting up at the right time of day and they didn't get their 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, it's kind of the reverse. When I was looking at your website, I saw that you're a physician and a yoga teacher. So just how did this come about? Because those usually don't go together.
Yeah, when I went through my health crisis, as I call it, and I learned about yoga and the healing properties of yoga, and I decided that I need to teach this to my patients and to my friends and family. I need to teach it to everybody. So in order to do that, I decided that I need to get certified because I want to make sure, being the physician type that I am, I want to make sure I'm giving people accurate information. So I went through yoga teacher training and I did basic 200 hours that's required for training. And then I did an additional 100 hours to get certified in restorative yoga and yin yoga because those are the two most healing types of yoga. So when people, like I mentioned before, have injuries or they're healing from certain conditions, those are the types of yoga that I prescribe for them. So I use it in my practice that way and with clients and with patients as well to help them heal.
So what do you do in restorative yoga?
So restorative yoga, most of the positions you're either sitting or lying down, and a lot of it is stretching and getting into pose where maybe you're stretching, but at the same time, then once you get into that position, you kind of relax into it. So it helps with people that have injuries, let's say shoulder or back injuries or knee injuries, because they're not able to do all the standing poses and all the strenuous poses. So when they get into these relaxing poses and can get the mindfulness part down as well, they can actually start healing.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like something that I'd like to do. It's not like a ton of effort and you're still getting a lot of benefits.
And the yin yoga is, I think, is even for people that aren't injured, let's say runners or triathletes, people that do really hard workouts and they're not injured. I think yin is the best alternative workout for them because what yin does is similar to restorative where a lot of the poses are seated or lying down. But what you do in that one that's different from restorative is you get into a position and you stretch yourself kind of to your maximum that you can in that position and then you hold it. And you're going to hold that position for 3 to 5 minutes. And it doesn't seem like a big deal because, you're sitting and you're twisting maybe and you're holding it. But what you're actually doing in those positions is you're stretching all your ligaments. And those aren't getting stretched and used when we're doing all of our movement exercise. We're using our muscles. And so what happens to a lot of athletes is their ligaments get tight, right? And so what yin does is it stretches all that connective tissue that doesn't get stretched when you're doing your other workouts. So it's like the perfect complement to hard workouts.
Love it. And is there a way to find, say someone wanted to find a yin yoga program in their town? I mean, is there a way to do that?
Yeah, when you look at the different yoga studios, usually when you look at the different schedules of classes, they'll tell you which types they teach. And most of them teach like probably 90% of their classes are going to say vinyasa flow, which is the regular yoga you see most of the time. But they'll have about 10 or 20% either restorative or yin in their studio.
Or the hot yoga, like you mentioned. It's real popular right now. Cool. And then I guess you just got to try it. There's no like certifications that we should be looking for or anything like that.
No, usually the teachers that teach that specialize in that. So they're usually all pretty good.
Love it. In working with different clients, can you share with us a success story with somebody?
Yeah, I had one client that was struggling with weight loss. She was also struggling with diabetes, and she had been working out with a personal trainer for 5 years every morning. And She wasn't gaining weight, but she wasn't losing weight. And I mean, for you, you have a gym and you work with trainers and you're a trainer yourself. That might already give off a red flag, like maybe something's not right there. But so she was stuck. She kind of felt stuck. And so we started working with her on sleep. She was going to bed on time, but she wasn't sleeping well during the night. And she would get up at 3 or 4 in the morning and do some work and then have breakfast and then go back to bed and then get up around 6 or 7 and then go work out with her trainer and then come home and take another nap. So the sleep schedule was all off the charts, and that was adding to it the fact that she was eating and going back to sleep. So we had to get all of that stuff straightened out with her. And once she got that under control, she actually, after all that time of being stuck at the same weight, she started losing weight. Her blood sugar dropped from ranging in the 200s to ranging in the 150s. So it's still high, but that's a big drop for a diabetic. She was feeling so much healthier and changed the foods she was eating and cooking at home with her daughters. And even she started planting a garden with her little grandson outside so that she can get more vegetables into her diet.
Loved it. So you started with the sleep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Started with sleep. And then we moved on to food and then the exercise and started shifting up her workouts a little so she wasn't doing the same workout every single day.
Yeah, a lot of people say that exercise is actually the easiest part, the most fun part. For me, for sure it is, and I know a lot of people the same way. So cool. All right, we're going to move to the last portion of our program. Dr. Colon, what is your favorite workout or exercise program?
My favorite, which I already touched on, is yin yoga.
Love it. Cool. Do they play any music during yin yoga?
Sometimes they do. It's very relaxing, soothing music. So I love that. But if I'm running or power walking, which I also like to do, I like to have dance music to kind of get me pumped up.
Nice. Any artist in particular?
No, I just kind of find a station and just go with that.
Cool. What station?
I just try to go on Spotify and pick one that says dance music and just kind of go with the flow.
Love it. Love it. Okay, great. And we got the Olympics coming up. What is your favorite Olympic event?
I have 2. I love gymnastics, both men and women, and I also love swimming.
Perfect. And any last advice for our listeners today?
The last advice would be kind of touching back on that quote that I had at the beginning about the journey being the destination, that health and wellness and fitness, it's a process. It's kind of a never-ending process because we can always strive to get healthier or more fit. Even if we do reach those goals, we usually set another goal. So just realizing that it's a process and not being caught up in that end goal so much. And also just realizing that you don't have to do it perfectly. None of us do it perfectly. Even the doctors and the trainers and all of the stars that you see like on TV, none of us do it perfectly. We all have our moments where we slip, and all we do is just get back on and start over.
Perfect way to end the show. Thank you so much for all the information you provide us, and definitely look forward to following your program in the future.